Are you tired of oatmeal that's thick and pasty and you're looking for something creamy and delicious? Well, I've got the perfect solution for you here. This is my creamy Bananas Foster oatmeal. Just a few ingredients for this deliciousness, and I'll be sharing with you the method to make a creamy oatmeal every time. So if you'd like to see how this is done, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook, an amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is one of mine. I'd found a way of cooking oatmeal that would make it creamier. I did some searching online, as I often do, and I found this method of making oatmeal, and it would be creamy, not like real lumpy, like you know how oatmeal, when you cook it, it can get very thick and lumpy. This does not do that, and I've tried it a few times and I loved it. I wanted to share it with you, but I didn't want to just share a method of making oatmeal. I figured I'd give you some flavor to go along with it. So I came up with my creamy Bananas Foster oatmeal. Now, if you don't know what Bananas Foster is, then you're probably fairly young, because it has been around for quite a while, but it's not as popular these days as it used to be. But it started in 1951 at a restaurant in New Orleans called Brennan's. New Orleans was a port where a lot of the bananas came in. The owner of the restaurant wanted the chef, Paul Blanchet, I believe his name was, to come up with a recipe featuring the bananas so that they could utilize them. So he came up with Bananas Foster, and often it was served tableside and they would flambe the bananas and it was a big spectacle. But I'm not going to be doing all of that stuff. I am going to be just making some oatmeal. So let's go over the ingredients. I have here 1/3 cup of old-fashioned oats, and you could do more if you want. This recipe also, you can double it, triple it, quadruple it, whatever you need to do. This is going to be serving one, but if you need to make it for more, you can easily bump up the ingredients by however many people you are having. Here I have 1/3 cup of water, and that's just regular tap water. Doesn't have to be hot, doesn't have to be cold. Now, the trick to this, and I've used this trick before in other recipes like my oatmeal breakfast muffins and some of the cakes that I've made with oatmeal, is pre-soaking the oatmeal to soften it up. But I never thought of doing that while I was making oatmeal. So you need an equal amount of water that you have to the oatmeal, and we are going to be soaking that for about a half an hour. But I did test it because you get up in the morning, you may not have a half an hour to an hour to let this soak. So I did test having it done overnight. I put it into my saucepan, put the water and the oatmeal, covered it, and let it soak overnight, and it came out just fine. So you can do it ahead if you need to, but I find soaking it just before cooking it gives you a slightly creamier texture, but it's still great if you do decide to do it overnight. Here I have 1/3 cup of almond milk, and you can use any milk that you want. It's up to you. I'm using almond milk, and again, it's the same proportion as you have of the oatmeal and the water. Here I have half of a banana, and that was saved from breakfast. I had a doctor's appointment this morning, so I made Paul's breakfast and still had the other half of the banana left. So that's what I'm using. Usually I would cut off half of the banana, save the rest for later, or snack on it while I was waiting for the oatmeal to soak. So half a banana is all you're gonna need. Here I have 1 tablespoon of brown sugar replacement, and this is the one that I'm using, Splenda Magic Baker. Now you have to be careful, there is one that Splenda does that's a blend, and that is regular sugar or brown sugar with a sweetener. So if you want to get the bites and points down to where I have them, you want to use something with 0 calories, 0 bites or points. Here I have 1/4 teaspoon of rum extract, and Bananas Foster was typically flambéed using rum, and that is what I'm using to get that flavor. If you don't have rum extract, you could use vanilla extract and it would be fine. It just lose a slight little bit of the flavor of Bananas Foster. And here I have 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon, and that is another standard ingredient for Bananas Foster. So that's all we're gonna need. So let me shuffle a few things around and we're gonna get started. All right, so all we need right now are the oats and the water. What we're going to do is to a small saucepan, or you can do a larger saucepan. As I said, if you do want to do more servings, you're going to add the oatmeal and the water, and just make sure all of that oatmeal is submerged in the water. Give it a little shake, pat that down, and if any of the oatmeal is climbing up the sides or clinging to the sides, you can just push that down into the water. Okay, so that looks good. I'm gonna cover it. You don't have to cover it, but I do like to cover it just to make sure nothing falls into it. Now it's gonna sit for 30 minutes to an hour. You could go a little longer. As I said, you could have done this last night before you went to bed and it would be fine. Now you can use this method of making oatmeal for just plain oatmeal, or I do in the recipe share in the notes a bunch of other varieties. But honestly, you can put in whatever you feel like having. This method here does make the oatmeal very creamy, so I will not go back to the other way of doing it. So let me give this half an hour and I will be back. Okay, so it's been half an hour and you can see that the oatmeal has soaked up all of that water, really softened the oatmeal quite a bit. So what we're going to do now is just add in our almond milk and turn our heat on to medium. And I'm going to stir that through. Now we're going to bring this up to a boil and reduce this. Cook it until the almond milk is almost completely absorbed, and that's going to take about 5 or 6 minutes. Stir that around on occasion, get that oatmeal into the milk if it's climbing up the sides. And I'll be back in about 5 minutes to finish this up. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. You can see it's boiling and most of the almond milk has been absorbed, making this very creamy. And that's what you're looking for. You don't want all of the almond milk to be gone. You want it to have some moisture and some creaminess. Now that that's right where I want it, I'm going to turn off the heat, add in the brown sugar replacement, rum extract, cinnamon, and I'm going to stir that in just to get that sugar replacement to melt down into our oatmeal. And it's just using the residual heat. You don't have to have the heat on for this part. Now, if you don't have brown sugar replacement, you could use white sugar replacement. It will change the flavor slightly, but it would be fine. You could also use what I've used before is a tablespoon of sugar-free caramel sauce. I use the Smucker's, and a tablespoon is just 1 bite or Blue Point. Okay, now that's all in there, and you can see I've cut up my banana. I cut it into quarters and then cut that into slices, and I'm gonna add that in because, as I said, Bananas Foster is typically flambéed, so we do want to warm up those bananas a little bit. That's all there is to it, and look how creamy that still is. Even when it starts to cool down, it's still going to be creamy. So as I said, use this method for whatever you like. If you want just cinnamon, brown sugar cinnamon, if you want maple syrup, as I said, I do have alternative flavor profiles on the recipe. So now I'm going to bring in my bowl and immediately transfer that into my bowl here, and look at it flow out of there. So creamy. I honestly don't think you'll want to make oatmeal the old-fashioned way anymore after you try this. But that's all there is to it. Bananas Foster oatmeal, creamy Bananas Foster oatmeal. And now it's just time to enjoy, and I'm telling you, this is really good. This flavor combination I love, but there are many you can do. As I said, do whatever you like. There's a lemon blueberry I have on the recipe. There's a chocolate strawberry, so you can really do whatever you want. Now I'll give you the nutrition facts for my creamy Bananas Foster oatmeal, and if you change anything up, add things, subtract things, what have you, that's obviously going to change the bites, points, and calories. but this is what I've made today, so these are the nutrition facts I'm going to share with you. This one serving of oatmeal, it is only going to be 3 Better Balanced Bites or old Blue Points. I'm on the Healthy Better Balanced plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, which is around where their current plan is. But 3 bites for a filling and satisfying breakfast, well worth it. Now, if you're following calories, the calories for this serving is going to be 166. And if you are following macros, the fat is 3.2 grams. Saturated fat is 0.4 grams. Protein is 4.3 grams. Carbs are 44 grams. Fiber is 4.4 grams. And sugars are 8 grams for one serving of Banana Foster's oatmeal. And any variations you make, it'll still be around there. I basically added 0 bite foods, so I only had to account for the bites and points that are in the oatmeal. But if you add anything in like nuts or whatever, it may alter that, but it's not going to be too bad of a hit on your bites and points. Now, if you enjoyed this recipe and this video, I'd appreciate the usual, like, subscribe, comment, share, hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. And if you want the recipe for this, and the variations that I have at the bottom in the notes, then that is going to be linked directly down below in the description box. There's also a link to the blog itself if you're looking for any of my recipes. And speaking of my recipes, there's also a link for my cookbook down there. It's on Amazon. Now, that's the US link. If you're in another country, you will have to just search recipes with Roy Cookbook and you should find it. Also down there are links to my 2 stores, my Fourth Wall store and my Zazzle store. And if you can support the channel by picking up an item such as this apron, there are mugs, calendars, planners, etc. Check out that link, and if you can support the channel, I would appreciate it. Also down there is the link to my Amazon storefront. If I've used anything that you're looking for, it may be there. And last but not least, there is my social media, my Instagram, and a few Facebook groups that I'm part of. So check out that description box for all sorts of information. Now, I think it's time for me to dig into, well, it's actually a dessert for me now because it's very late. But whether it's breakfast or dessert, this is delicious, and I hope you're going to give it a try. So, until next time, bye.